Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Geekanomicon and our title of the night. Well, as you can tell, that's my iPad. That's because I lost my copy of this book. I don't know where it is. Kind of upset about that. But, Bram Stoker's Dracula, keeping with our theme of vampires for the week. It was written in 1897 by Bram Stoker of Ireland. I didn't know until recently, in fact, when I did a little bit of research for this, that he's from Ireland. It was not written as a typical novel, but rather through letters, diary pages, receipts, whole bunch of weird maps. Definitely not typical. And that being said, I find it really impressive that the book did as well as it did before it hit the States and kind of had a lukewarm reception here, and it gained in popularity once people started comparing Stoker to some of the classical authors of the time. The book itself is about Dracula coming to England, wooing a woman away from her lover. The book itself has been compared to many things: gothic, horror, even urban fantasy, which I'll get into in a little bit. Gave us a different look at, although it's never been proven that this was Bram Stoker's intent, but supposedly a look at Vlad the Impaler, who's an actual figure from history from Transylvania, also known as Vlad III Dracula. Many have conjectured that Bram actually had an obsession with history, but it's never been proven that his intent was that this was indeed Vlad the Impaler. Just movies. Movies have tried to showcase that's what Bram's intent was, but it's never been proven. It should be noted here that Stoker, although he's often credited with it, did not create vampires. Vampires have been a figure of mythology, and when we get to Saturday's show, I will go into vampires in great detail. Right now, it's just important that all Stoker did was popularize the sophisticated vampire. Believe me, the real vampires, not pretty pictures. The main big problem we have with Bram Stoker's Dracula is this is where it comes down to: trust your publisher, let them handle the legwork. But when the book hit the States, it was a mess because Stoker didn't follow all the procedures and whatnot. So as soon as it was published here, it became public domain. That's a nightmare authors don't ever want to repeat again. He became pretty much a poster child for what not to do when getting published outside of your home territory. Why am I bringing up Dracula here? Now, without Bram, vampires would not have come into a popularity until probably a lot later. And they probably, as I've mentioned, would not look like they do. If you've not seen a movie called Nosferatu, I highly recommend you take a look at it. That's what we would have had. Lends greatly to what Stephen King tried to do in Salem's Lot. That's his interpretation of a vampire in there as well. Just think of Bumpy's phrase, bumpy forehead crowd, and take it to an extreme level. They're not pretty. Also, Bram is truly set the stage for urban fantasy today. True, his novel is definitely horror, but many urban fantasy authors lean heavily on some form of vampire or another. Hierarchies, you name it. And excuse me while my hand reaches in there to blind you and reinvigorate my screen. Most urban fantasy authors have vampires in their series in one form or another, either as part of the main plot, like the Dresden Files or True Blood or Twilight, or as background dressing. Really, there are some that just have it as background dressing. And that's a little bit. That I think I'm going to leave it at that. Bram, when I first read Dracula, it struck me as an odd piece, and I put it down and said, "Why? What is this? This isn't." And I didn't get it. I tried to read it when I was in high school, and I was like, I just didn't get it. And now, it wasn't until years later that I picked it up and said, "Okay, let me take another look at this." And I was like, "Wow, Bram really tried to do something different back then," and he did. He tried to set a different standard for horror, and boy, did he ever. So I'm going to leave it, Bram Stoker, at that, and go into what's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow you will have to wait and see. Tomorrow will be a juicy one, to be sure. So until then, I shall see you all in the near future. Dang, Sesame Street.